Thanks for coming. I noticed once or twice people have had difficulty with saying my name. I have the same problem every so often. The trick, some of you know, is to think of it as two words. How many Sesame Street fans do we have here? All right, it's what would Ernie do if he ate his roommate? Come on. Okay, so I want to thank the committee for having the guts, or maybe they lost their mind, but honestly, to come to a math talk at 7 in the evening, it'd be hard-pressed to think that people would jump at that opportunity. But it's really great to see people here. And I wanted to give you a feeling of what they wrote to me, which I thought was very touching in saying that we'd like you to speak. So here's some excerpts from the letter that they sent me. You know, typical, Dear Professor Hurlbert. It gives us great pleasure to inform you you've been selected to deliver your last lecture. Please clean out your office and turn in your keys. I thought this was funny too, because I think that they might have transposed 24 hours is usually, I mean, I'm ready to go, but to have the extra time is great. And so that's what this talk is all about, the extra 18 hours. But it goes on. They said it's in its 12th year. The series was developed to honor and celebrate excellence in teaching. And it's evident from your nomination that students value good teaching. This was really nice to hear. And that is why they insisted that this be your last lecture, which, I mean, that's a compliment, right? God, I just wanted to check. So I wanted to think of what should you say in your last lecture. I bet I can say what would be my last words. You know, you're crossing the street, you turn, you see a truck. A couple of things come to mind. My kids are here tonight, so I can't say them. But, you know, even though we probably all know them in about 7 or 8 languages, so we can't just talk about that for, 3 hours. We have 3 hours, right, for the... especially because George Carlin and I think already covered that skit, for those of you who know that one. So what will I talk about? Well, some math. Let's start easy. I always, you know that golden rule, KISS, keep it simple, stupid. So there's some, maybe some of you don't know all the terms in here, so let's just go through them. A C infinity server. Actually, I had fun of this. Who's seen Sneakers? The movie Sneakers? I stole some of the stuff from there. They actually have a mathematician breaking codes, and he gives this great lecture, and he says all this stuff has Gaussian proportions, which for those of us in the know is just a ridiculous thing to say. So I actually strung together some ridiculous things for mathematicians. This makes no sense to us either, so don't worry. But there might be some more math in the talk, and so if it gets too heavy for you, just reach into the seat in front of you, and you'll see, in case you need it. I've done it to people. You get on the airplane, everybody's, what do you do? And you know, I'm a mathematician, and they just kind of turn pale. But they say, I was good until 3rd grade, and you give them a great job. So, but I got tired of it, so I had a little more fun with it. And what do you do? So I would say, well, I coach at ASU. And boy, you could see them swell up, and you could kind of see their wheels turning. Like, I can't wait till I get home and tell somebody I sat next to a coach of, I don't know, football or something. So what do you coach? And then you say math, and and they just it's a whole lot more fun. You actually bring them to the pinnacle and then push them right over the edge. It's a much better effect. So there's nothing on this slide, and there hasn't been for quite some time. I guess I should... So what do I want to talk about this whole evening? It occurred to me... That doesn't work anymore? There's got to be Mozart in every talk. This has to be a little bit... So 42, who Raise your hand if you know Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. A lot of you do. So, obvious reference here. This is, for those of you who don't know it, it's easily the greatest 5-book trilogy ever. So if you're a fan of 5-book trilogies, this is the book, the series for you. There's also, some of you know, Stephen Colbert's show, the Colbert Report. Do you know this one? You give a talk and then it says what he's really thinking under there. So we might have a little bit of that tonight. But I forget, how many of you saw the movie or read the book? Or okay, so just to make sure we know where you are. This is part of the book has a computer called Deep Thought, and they give Deep Thought a task. They say, okay, see if you can find out what is the ultimate answer to life, the universe, and everything. And so it thinks and it thinks and it thinks, and well, 42. So one of the characters says, "Is that all you got to show for 7.5 million years of work?" And Deep Thought says, "Yes, I checked it, and quite definitely that's the answer." The problem, I think, is that you've never actually known what the question is. So that's a lot of the rest of the series is about trying to figure out what is the question. And so I think we're all familiar with this format where the answer is given first, and then you have to come up with the question. So I'll take Answers to Life for 500. Let's see how Tom does. Tom says, how old is Dr. H? That used to be right. But that's not. Okay, so Phil here, who's got a lot of points, 92,000 points for Phil, asks, what's the 13th prime number? I don't know if you know this. Well, Phil's a lemur. I don't know if you could tell, but they're really, really good at Jeopardy. 92,000 points. And I don't want to sound specious or anything, but they're not really good at math. I mean, some of my best friends are lemurs, so I'm not saying anything that they're all bad, but this is way off. 42 is not a prime number at all. It's even number, so it has a divisor. But 41 is actually the 13th prime number, so he wasn't even close. But thanks for playing, Phil. Mike has 4,200, says it's Jackie Robinson's uniform number. Is that right? We just celebrated this whole, is that his number? So we would have accepted that as a right answer, but you notice it's not in the form of a question. So sorry, Mike. Clearly the answer is the number of letters now on the screen. I can hear some of you counting just to be sure. Just count 14 in the first row and multiply by 3, and then reach for the bag. So, I mean, that may sound obscure to you. I mean, that's kind of obscure. It's like Cliff Clavin on Cheers when he was on Jeopardy. I don't know if you know this episode, but came down to Final Jeopardy, and what was the answer? They named 3 people. Yeah, and that's right. And he said, "Who are 3 people that have never been in my kitchen?" It's right.